Okay. Let us please go ahead and begin our new chapter, our new section, and we are beginning a discussion into some of the very, very basics of economic theory. So, up to this point, we've done economic terms, key, important vocabulary that you're going to need to know in order to best understand and discuss and break down issues of economics. We have looked at different economic systems and examples of those systems in real life and in theory. Now we're going to start the first step, the first basic understanding of what economics is all about. And that is the concepts of supply and demand. Supply and demand, the very basics of economics. Okay. And today we're going to talk about demand. We'll move on to supply, and then we'll talk about how they interact with each other. Let me just start and say demand is defined as the amount of product that people will buy at different prices. And I'm going to really try and focus in on the fact that this is connected to the people. Okay, we're going to find out that supply is mostly having to do with the producer side of the economic ballgame, where demand is now the consumer side of the economic ballgame. Okay, and the question is, what's popular, right? What is demanded by the people? What do the people want to buy? Okay, and I'm gonna start where I always start in this class. Burgers. Look, everyone knows you go to In-N-Out, the line is out of the parking lot. It's uncanny. I very rarely have drove by In-N-Out. The one on Ventura, over here on Topanga, near where I currently live, in Burbank, where I grew up, where I haven't seen a massive line for In-N-Out. Same's true for Chick-fil-A, by the way, but we'll get into chicken sandwiches another day. That's a fun conversation as well. Why is the line so long for In-N-Out? Well, because people demand it, okay? It's also very reasonably priced. If In-N-Out cost as much as a burger from Fatburger, which doesn't have that long line situation, that one down there on Ventura is very rarely. Do you see that long line? Or maybe like a restaurant style burger where you're talking about a $10 burger. If you go to, I don't know, one of these restaurants around here, if you go to TGI Fridays down there used to be, maybe the line wouldn't be so long. But because their prices are so reasonable and their food is so delicious, we see that demand for In-N-Out is through the roof. So much so that the lines are always out of the parking lot. And I have down here, right, demand can vary depending on many variables. Price is one, but let's look at this picture I picked up, PPE. On March 12th, 2020, I did not know what the letters PPE stood for. My wife did. She's a medical worker. I didn't. I would have guessed something having to do with sports. I always guess. Points per something. I don't know. But no. PPE is personal protective equipment. It's the stuff that people need to have to protect themselves from this virus. I remember when this virus first started, and all of a sudden we didn't have enough face masks for all of our medical workers. I don't know if you remember this, but in the epicenters in New York and Massachusetts and New Jersey and Connecticut, people were having to use like trash bags to try and keep it off of their body because they didn't have the PPE. to cover their body. Um, there was a run on masks, so much so that the CDC suggested don't buy a mask. Okay, in part because we want to save some of these masks, specifically the N95s, which I don't have. My wife uses at work. Um, for the medical workers who need to them, so when they work on patients with the COVID, they don't catch it and then die. And we saw that that was happening, that there were nurses and doctors catching it and dying in New York. And since then, we've seen it around the country. Um, but it's gotten better, right? But there was that time when demand for PPE was so high that they actually asked people not to buy the best masks around, not even maybe the blue surgical masks, which I think everyone can get now. There was a shortage of masks because demand was so high because people were getting sick. I mentioned the swabs that they used to do the test. They ran out of them. Why? Because people don't really use those that much. But now that we need to administer millions of tests a day, yeah, there's a higher demand. We have to make more. Um, Also, do you remember when there was nothing in the store? Did any of you guys go shopping during that time and there was no toilet paper? It was so weird. That was like the weirdest thing for me. Um, Everyone thought that, oh my gosh, who knows what's going to happen? I'm going to go out and buy all the stuff I need. And it wasn't just toilet paper, although toilet paper took a really long time before there was available in the stores again. It was meat, rice, bread, everything. You'd go to the store. I was shocked. And I didn't even know if like the restaurants were going to shut down. So I was like, what am I? I'm just buying random stuff just to make sure I have something just in case. Why did the demand for these food products go so high? Well, it was fear, right? That maybe things were going to completely shut down and we wouldn't be able to get to the grocery store or in and out or burger, restaurants, which stayed open, so there wasn't, once I realized that, I remember I was going for a walk with my girls on one of the first days and I just been to the store and I was like, oh man, it was crazy there. And I saw this guy walking down the street and, and he has his In and Out in his hands. And I said, what? In and Out still open? Oh, we're good. I'm not worried anymore. But if the restaurants had closed, that would have been something else also that maybe drove demand in those early days of the COVID. Um, so demand has to do with how much of a product people want, and it does matter the price, but sometimes it doesn't. I bought a dozen eggs from Vallarta for you know $5 on one of my first shopping trips because I couldn't find eggs anywhere. So sometimes when there's not enough, you can rise prices and people will still pay the more because there isn't any out there um, for people to buy. All of these kind of things we'll get into deeper explanations of. Um, so yeah, this is where we are, and this is where we're going to be for the next few weeks. Supply and demand.